Hey folks, this is Nate coming at you. So tonight I wanted to just share with you two different versions of a blade style that I'm nearing completion on. I call it Karonga. I sort of got the idea for this style from several places. Originally I got the idea for this blade style from watching the television series Shadow and Bone, and sort of wanting to represent the sun summoning effect. So the colors of the Grisha that does sun summoning. I thought that that magical ability was really cool. So I wanted to try and represent that into like some sort of style on this blade. And then after working in that idea for a little bit, I sort of just moved more towards, well, what if I can try and make a style that just looks generally like the sun? Like it doesn't, like I figured I didn't need to necessarily tie it to a particular show or an idea, but more broadly, just like make something that looks like it came out of the sun. So that's why I decided to name it Karonga, but you'll see in a sec. So it's a perLEDFlicker LED blade. It's using oranges, dark oranges, yellows, reds, and a little bit of black for texture. Anyway, here it is. So the space blade is 5 colors. It's an orange, dark orange, a ratio darker red, a black, and then a dark, like a medium to dark yellow. And I wanted to get that, it's going for that texture of not just a flame blade, but you know, that look you see like when you're looking at the surface of a sun, where you see that sort of that molten effect. And most of the clashes, lockups, and peripheral effects I'm using, keeping sort of in the yellow camp. I didn't really want to go with white so much. I wanted to keep it in the yellows and oranges to sort of unify the theme. But I also needed a peripheral color that was brighter than the base blade, so I went almost straight for the yellow on the peripheral stuff. So these are the blasts and lockups. Blast wave. Clashes. There's a lockup. And there's lightning block. And so as with most perLEDFlicker blades, you get a little bit of that unstable effect on the swing, but not as much as you would with like a true unstable blade or a flame blade. Here's a melt. And the melt, I basically go from 255 yellow down to a 60-60 yellow. So I go from bright yellow down to dark yellow. So like the standard usually for melts, like if you go on FET's page and do like a default style, it'll usually default a melt from like an orange to a yellow to an orange to kind of give you enough of a color transition. But since this whole blade is predominantly orange, I had to change that melt. So I just went from bright yellow to dark yellow instead. That seems to work all right. And the stab is red, but you can barely see it, so I may have to change the stab. I'm not sure what I'll change it to. Probably to something like a really, really dark red, like maybe a 60 or something like that. I think I'm using a spark tip on the ignition and the or on the retraction rather. So the power up, I'm using an overload preon, and I got this idea when I was working on the Bladestyle for the Void, like closer to last Halloween, where I basically changed the placement of the overload preon into the center of the blade rather than at the base, and then I set the sizings to grow a little bit. So the only difference with this one is because I want to get to do a burst on ignition. So the last timing on the preon, I actually set to I set the TR value down really short so that the preon grows and then disappears just in time for the ignition effect to sort of give you that explosive effect. So I'll show you that again. So it's going to grow a little bit, and then it disappears, and then pops. And then the spark tip is just on the retraction. And I'll likely change the color on that spark tip. It doesn't really need to be white. It can be something else. I'll probably do like a, I don't know, like a bright yellow or something. But that's a minor thing still left to do. Most of it, it's mostly done at this point. So this is the version 2 of it. Now the version 2, what I did was I changed the lockup colors to almost all one version of yellow, sort of unified the yellow and the lockups. And then what I did was I added 2 transition loops that basically shoot a yellow and then a red up the blade. Which is a little bit more like my Erebor blade style. So you notice that color change. So it's actually shooting it does a red shoot and then a yellow shoot up the blade. And I did this for a couple of reasons. First reason is I got the idea from from building my Erebor blade style, where I'm doing that red silhouette up the blade. But then the other reason, and it seemed like a cool thing to try out, but then the other reason was when I was looking at like pictures of the sun or whatever, you notice those gaseous movements that are always like jumping around and swirling. So it's never just about the heat on the surface, but I wanted to try and get a little bit more movement of the color on the blade beyond just the perFlicker LED. The one downside to this is that this blade style is going to be very power consumptive. So just beware, if you like this style and you want to use it on a blade, just beware, it's going to be drawing a lot of power. Not as much as a white blade style would, but probably more than most of your other oranges or red blade styles. So because there's 2 transition loops that are drawing color up the blade, and then there's a 5-color perFlicker LED, and then there's a black rain dent that's going on underneath the blade for additional texture. And then as you can see, the lockups are more of a clean yellow, like a more definitive yellow. And I did that so that the lightning sparks of the yellows and reds, so that they wouldn't drown out the color of the lockup. So I can make the lockup a little bit more of a deep yellow, a rich yellow. Here's the lightning block. So So that's my my Karonga style, and I'll leave both versions of that style code in Pastebin for y'all if any of you would like it to play around with it. Yeah, as always, thanks for watching, and yeah, may the force be with y'all, and I hope everybody's having a good New Year so far. All right, take care.